Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for Thursday, May 20th, 2021. On today's episode of the show, we're going to be talking about the latest film and TV news. My name is Ben Pearson. I'm the senior writer at slashfilm.com, and I am joined on today's episode by Slash Film writers Hoai-Tran
Hey everyone.
and Chris Evangelista.
Hello.
All right, guys, so I just wanted to start off real quick with a couple of brief additions to the Knives Out 2 cast. Kate Hudson has been added to the cast, and Leslie Odom Jr. Leslie Odom Jr. most recently starred in One Night in Miami. He was in Hamilton. He played Aaron Burr in that. So you probably know him from there. Kate Hudson, of course, the rom-com queen from the early aughts. Again, just like everybody else who's been involved with this, we have no idea what characters they're playing or anything about the plot or anything like that. But I just thought, since we've talked about all the other Knives Out 2 editions, I just wanted to keep our listeners updated in case they're not, obsessively checking slashfilm.com and seem to and somehow missed this casting news. So anybody have any thoughts on either one of these before we jump into our next thing? It's okay if you don't. I'm just curious.
I do think it's interesting that Leslie Odom Jr. was in Murder on the Orient Express, and now he's in this, which is like pretty much jumping off that same Agatha Christie multiple suspects thing. And then beyond that, the Kate Hudson news just had me sort of like, oh, like I don't dislike Kate Hudson, but I feel like that's like the least exciting casting they've announced so far. Like it just feels like
it's definitely like, out of left field.
It's like maybe maybe this is Kate Hudson's big comeback or something. But I've never been like, ooh, a Kate Hudson movie, I got to see this. So I am like nonplussed by her casting.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days and obviously like Almost Famous and some of the other movies that she's in, but I missed a lot of the romantic comedies that she was in because I just like was not at a
They're
place.
Not very good.
Okay. I was going to ask, I was going to eventually get around to see HT if you had checked out any of those, back in the day.
I actually do like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I think it's a fun, kind of trashy rom-com that Kate Hudson's very charming in. But yeah, I would say that she's also the least exciting casting of this group. But my one thing is maybe she'll be doing some kind of self-skewering type of character along the lines of who Toni Collette played in the first Knives Out, which I think would be really interesting and be a very self-aware way of her playing into the type of character that she's often played for the past, couple decades.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this could be, like Chris said, maybe like a Tarantino style career resurrection kind of thing, because she's been making some borderline questionable career decisions lately.
I feel like she hasn't. Has she done anything?
She hasn't
recently?
been in anything. She's been doing her Fabletics line.
Yeah, she has like yoga wear or something.
She was in that movie called Music that Sia did.
Oh my god!
I forgot about that. The one that was just completely
everyone was very upset with that movie. So maybe she needs this palate cleanser here.
But yeah, I kind of agree with HT. I feel like she's actually pretty good in How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, like in terms of embracing the character type that she was asked to play there. And I think. I trust in Rian Johnson when all is said and done. I trust that he knows what he's doing when he casts somebody and that she's going to be the right fit for whatever sort of role she has. And I'm sort of envisioning like some sort of big, like HT said, maybe like Anne Hathaway in Ocean's 8 or something, like a fun performance that sort of leans into, some of her previous stuff. So we'll have to see. I just wanted to open the show talking about that. And then I think every other story that we're going to talk about today involves HBO Max in some way. So let's kick things off with a Harry Potter TV series, HT. It's coming to HBO Max. Aren't you excited?
No, because it's a quiz show. So Warner Media has greenlit an unscripted Harry Potter game show and a retrospective special, which will air on HBO Max and later Cartoon Network and TBS. And it's part of the HBO Max and Warner Media like laying the foundation for a Harry Potter TV universe, of one of which potentially a scripted series, which we had reported on a while ago, is reportedly involved into, even though that is not confirmed. But a quiz show. Something that no other Harry Potter fan has seen before. Honestly, there's been so many quiz and trivia elements of Harry Potter. It just feels like this whole thing is a done deal by now, and like we don't really need another platform for trivia. But I guess if they want an easy way into starting off the Harry Potter TV universe, I guess this is it.
Yeah, I really wonder if the entire J.K. Rowling controversy that cropped up in the last year, if that had not happened, would this be an announcement of a scripted Harry Potter show? Are they just sort of saying, "Oh, this is a quiz show, this is a retrospective," because they know that it won't drive outrage and all of that because of all of the controversy there? What do you think, H2?
It certainly is the safest choice because, yeah, it's the Wizarding World and Harry Potter in general is kind of on the outs right now. The J.K. Rowling and her comments on transgender people have lost a lot of the goodwill that Harry Potter has accumulated over the past couple of decades.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually coming up on the 20th anniversary of the Wizarding World, which is why they're doing this quiz show in retrospective. But really, it just feels like the safest choice that they could do in terms of launching what they say is the next step in the Harry Potter franchise expansion. So, yeah, I think that a lot of it is just them kind of being like, oh, we're going to try to separate Harry Potter from J.K. Rowling and do the
Mm-hmm.
safest thing. I think it was interesting that in the press release, they explicitly said that J.K. Rowling is not involved in this, but they did say that they were in contact with her team in terms of developing this unscripted show. So it does feel like they're sort of covering their tracks in terms of just the Rowling of it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, creating a bridge maybe for and just sort of biding their time a little bit until some of that blows over, or maybe something else happens. Maybe, yeah, who knows? But okay, let's move on to another HBO Max project, which is the Batgirl movie. Chris, that film has now found a pair of directors.
Indeed, it has. And I'm going to apologize up front if I mispronounce their names. I'm sorry. Adil Arbi and Bilall Fallah. They directed Bad Boys for Life, the third Bad Boys movie. They've been tasked with directing Batgirl, and Batgirl is headed to HBO Max. And Christina Hodson, who wrote Bumblebee, and she also wrote Birds of Prey, wrote the script. So that's the Batgirl news we have.
Yeah, this is the same movie that Joss Whedon was working on at one point, but he ended up stepping away from it. So now Christina Hodson has taken over on the writing front. And like you mentioned, these guys from Bad Boys for Life are stepping in here. These guys also, for people who are, like up on the comic book related TV and movie stuff, they're also, I think, co-showrunners on Ms. Marvel, the upcoming Disney Plus series. So that's cool.
They're also directors too. They've also directed some episodes, I believe.
Oh yeah, that's right. So Chris, I just want to ask you about this because I think the news about these directors mentioned that this Batgirl movie is going directly to HBO Max, and it's like or I guess it's like an HBO Max original film. It's not going to be something like the 2021 slate is being released theatrically and on HBO Max at the same time. This sounds like that's not going to be the case. It's going to be developed specifically for HBO Max. So I was just I'm of two minds of this because I kind of feel like on one hand, it feels like, the optics might not necessarily be great of like, oh, you have a DC female fronted superhero, this Batgirl character a lot of people care about. We're just going to make that as a streaming movie and not like a quote unquote real movie, like a theatrical movie. But then again, like maybe more people would end up seeing it on a streaming service than they would in theaters anyway. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, it's tough to say. Like, the immediate knee-jerk reaction is probably like they don't have enough faith in Batgirl. And then you could also argue it seems very weird that they didn't pick a female director for this. Because I remember when Joss Whedon was announced, and this was before the more recent news about Joss Whedon being a piece of shit came out. Everyone was like, why not hire a female director? And it seems weird that like Joss Whedon walked away and they didn't seek out a female director. Like, don't get me wrong, I think these guys are really good directors based on what I've seen, and what I've seen is Bad Boys for Life. I haven't seen anything else they did, but I really like Bad Boys for Life. I went into that movie with next to zero expectations. I was like, this is a third entry in a series. It's probably going to suck. And that movie was surprisingly good. It was funny and it was entertaining, and it found a way to make the series like sweet in a way the previous two films weren't, because the previous two films directed by Michael Bay are kind of nasty, especially Bad Boys 2 is a very nasty movie. So I was like, wow, these guys, they were able to make Bad Boys emotional. So I do think they're good filmmakers, but it does seem weird to me that they didn't find a female director, and it does seem somewhat weird to me that they're just dropping this on an HBO Max. At the same time, though, I feel like everyone is sort of unsure on what the future is going to be. Like, everyone wants to believe, movie theaters, they're going to bounce back. But, we've had a year of people stuck in their homes. We've had a year of people wanting to just stream stuff at home. And it feels like, maybe they're sort of like hedging their bets over there. They're like, all right, we're going to put some things in theaters, some things directly to HBO Max, and see what works best. Mm-hmm. But that's also me giving them the benefit of the doubt. For all I know, there's a bunch of male execs at Warner Brothers smoking cigars and being like, a movie with a girl, no one's going to see that.
Well, I mean, I guess it's the same studio that released Wonder Woman, so right. and that movie did very well. Batgirl, of course, is not nearly as iconic a character, but HT, I know you're a fan of Batgirl, right? Like the entire. I know you've spoken at length about your love for the Bat family.
I do love the Bat family, and yeah, I like Batgirl. I read the recent. I don't know who wrote it, but the recent comics that kind of reimagined her, made her a bit younger and more fun. They kind of tried to appeal to the younger demographic. So yeah, I like her. I am a little disappointed that she's not headed for a theatrical release. I do think that Warner Brothers, especially in the wake of all things COVID and everything, and they're not going to put their box office faith in any movies that aren't like Superman or Batman or the Justice Leaguers. So hence Batgirl headed to HBO Max.
HT, do you think that that like general audiences don't distinguish from don't distinguish in the same way that we do? Like I mentioned a second ago, like, oh, the idea of a movie being quote unquote lesser than because it's developed for a streaming service. But like, I think we might think that, or maybe there's or maybe that's even like a perception that's like a few years old at this point, and nobody even thinks that anymore. And maybe it's just sort of like a perpetuating cycle of like people writing that in the trades here and there. And, we just keep repeating the same talking point. But at the end of the day, all this stuff ends up as tiles on people's screens and streaming services. Do you think like general audiences look at movies in that same with askance a little bit if it was developed for HBO Max? I feel like they probably don't care as much as we do about this stuff.
I've actually had that same thought too. I think that at least the general thought approach is heading in that direction. Because I've had conversations with people and they're like, oh, what movies are good to see right now? And I talk about movies in theaters and like, oh, I mean, what's good on Netflix or what's good on streaming? Mm-hmm. And then I have to think in a whole different direction and like in a different box. But for them, it's all the same thing. It's all whatever they can watch most immediately and with the least cost. Mm-hmm. So I do think that there is that's what we're headed towards.
Yeah, Chris, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's true too. I do think we tend to think of things as, people working in the industry. And I know, like, whenever I see my family, which is rare because I don't want to see my family, but whenever I see them like on the holidays, they'll be like, what's a good movie? And what they're really asking is, what can I watch on Netflix? Like, they just think of everything in terms of Netflix, not even like other streaming services. It's just like, what's on Netflix right now? So I do think the average moviegoer isn't going to be like, how dare they not release Batgirl in a theater? They're just going to be like, oh, something I can barely pay attention to while I look at my phone for 2 hours.
Right. Okay, so going from Batgirl to Batman, HT, there's a new Batman animated series in the works. Tell me about this.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams, Matt Reeves, and DC Animated Universe Titan Bruce Timm is creating a noir-inspired take on Batman. It's called Batman, the Caped Crusader. It's a new Batman animated series that's described as a reimagining of the Batman mythology. And HBO Max has given it a straight-to-series order, which will, take the Caped Crusader back to his noir roots while diving deeper into the psychology of these iconic characters. So this is pretty exciting news. Batman has always thrived in the animated realm, especially under the oversight of Bruce Timm. He's the creator of Batman the Animated Series, the Superman Animated Series, Justice League, Batman Beyond, etc. So he knows what he's doing, and he's created some classics. Batman the Animated Series actually was itself very noir-inspired. There was a distinct 1950s noir style to it before Bruce Timm kind of pulled that back with the later series and went with the more sort of shiny, seamless throwback to 50s animation in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, doing this, we could see something akin, maybe like almost a successor to Batman the Animated Series, which I think all three of us love. So that's exciting. But I will say, I think that Bruce Timm's recent works in the DC animated realm have been a little bit questionable, to say the least.
Okay, I was going to ask you about this because I have not caught up with any of the stuff, because he makes a lot of those straight to video DC projects, right? Still. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I haven't seen any of those. What specifically are you talking about there?
Well, so do you remember how Bruce Timm would frequently pair up Batman with Batgirl, for example? And there's this kind of vein of skeeziness through some of the Batman animated and Justice League animated stuff that kind of comes out full force in his most recent works, like Batman and Harley Quinn, I think was one. I didn't even watch it just because I heard of these things these creative choices he's made, and I was like, I don't really want to watch that. But Bruce Timm is I have to say, just his depiction of female characters especially, and of these sort of romantic relationships, are a little bit backwards, is what I'll say. So I just
he's horny. He's a horny guy. Just say.
Okay.
he's really horny.
Dog, and he kind of reined that back in the early animated series. But if you check out his Instagram, it's all porn now, that he just draws all of these DC characters in the nude.
Are you serious?
Of hilarious. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think they're all still up too.
He actually has books of pinup drawings and stuff like that, and they're really good drawings, but they're also horny stuff.
Yeah,
it's really horny.
He's a very horny dude. He's a big horny dog.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Say it.
We should just add there's nothing wrong with being a horny dude. It's okay.
Yes. But yeah, so I wonder whether his horny tendencies will come out in full force again in this animated series. And it's also fine that he's horny, but at the same time, I just hope that it won't, completely take the
It won't be gross. Yeah, you don't want it to be gross.
It won't be too skeezy.
Yeah.
Well, J.J. Abrams and Matt Reeves don't strike me as particularly horny filmmakers, so maybe if they have a little bit more, input into this thing, they'll be able to balance out some of Bruce Timm's, totally okay horniness, I guess. So, HD, real quick before we move on from this, they released a teaser poster, I guess, for this series, and it's unclear if this is exactly what the final art style of the show is going to look like. But let's operate for a second under the assumption that this is going to be what this looks like. What do you think about the look of Batman in this teaser image?
Well, this is clearly a throwback to the beginnings of Batman as created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger, with the long horns. And I feel like this might just be a image from that early run. I can't say for certain. I don't want to say definitively, but it feels very much like that, versus being an actual piece of art from the animated series. So maybe this is just what it is conceptually. They're saying, oh, this is going to be a throwback. This is going to be a 50s, 40s style noir. And this won't be exactly what the animation style will look like.
Gotcha. Okay. And then, so from now Batman to Superman, there's a new Superman animated series in the works as well. Chris, tell me about that one.
Yes, this is called My Adventures with Superman, and this is an animated series that, quote, catches up with 20-something Clark Kent, the bright and driven Lois Lane, and their best friend Jimmy Olsen as they begin to discover who they are and everything they can accomplish as an investigative reporting team at the Daily Planet. That's it. That's all I got, Ben.
So, Chris, did you watch the Superman animated series that was on, maybe the year after, or sort of concurrently with the Batman animated series?
No, I never actually. I think I've seen one or two episodes, but I've always been more of a Batman fan.
I watched it.
Okay, what did you think about it, HT?
I did. Okay, so little backstory. Superman the Animated Series was actually the first of the Bruce Timm animated series I ever watched. I was a little bit young when the Batman animated series was on. So my first introduction to Batman was actually through the world's finest crossover from the Superman animated series. And I was like, I was very frightened of him. I was like, who is this scary man beating people up for no reason? So I adore the Superman animated series. It's just so bright and shiny and optimistic and exactly, what you want as an 8-year-old person watching cartoons. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Superman. I think he doesn't get his due, and I think that the Superman animated series really did do him justice.
Okay, no pun intended, or
pun intended.
So, Chris, what do you think about the show? Is this something that you're gonna maybe check out, or are you interested in this at all?
Okay, absolutely not. I will watch that Batman thing because I think that sounds cool, but this just does not sound for me. And I really don't like the story has like a display of the animation style, and it's kind of like old Speed Racer cartoon animation.
Yeah, it looks a little anime-ish almost.
And I'm not in the mood for this. It does not look like it's for me.
You're such a guy, Chris. You're like, I want the noir.
That's right. It's got to be
murder
dark.
Show.
Comics are supposed to be dark and for adults. I don't need this shit.
The one cool thing about that image is that it looks like Jimmy Olsen is either going to be like a black or an Indian character, which is kind of a cool like reinvention of that character. It's typically just been like a super nerdy white guy.
Reminds me of
Zack Snyder's version of a covert agent who gets beheaded,
murdered, shot in the head or something. Yeah, like God.
I will point out that for when they were talking about making Superman Lives, the Kevin Smith Tim Burton movie, there was a lot of talk of Chris Rock playing Jimmy Olsen. So there's some precedent here, but of course that never happened. So
interesting. And then Jack Quaid is going to be voicing Clark Kent Superman, and Alice Lee is going to be voicing Lois Lane. HT, are you still a Jack Quaid fan? Are you watching The Boys? I know he's in that show.
Yeah, I like Jack Quaid. I think he's good and charming. He's got his dad's megawatt smile. So yeah, I think I'll probably watch this just to prove Chris wrong. Just kidding. I'm gonna check it out.
Cool. All right. So then our final story today involves yet another HBO Max property. This is the series Green Lantern, which is a live action show, and this is going to be a show that features several green. I almost said Green's Lantern, like attorneys general or something, but
that's the correct term, Green's Lantern.
Okay, so yeah, a bunch of them are going to be popping up in various forms in this show, and now the series has cast another one. HT, tell me about that.
Yeah, HBO Max has or is in talks with Jeremy Irvine to play Alan Scott, who is the LGBTQ Green Lantern of the series. He is in the show a secretly gay FBI agent in the year 1941. And Green Lantern, to recap, is a show from Arrowverse maestro Greg Berlanti and Arrow/Legends of Tomorrow co-creator Mark Guggenheim. And it's going to be a time-hopping adventure that follows a multitude of Green Lanterns, including Alan Scott, Guy Gardner, and probably Hal Jordan, who is the main sort of Green Lantern. And Guy Gardner has already been cast. He's being played by Finn Wittrock, and he is the sort of uber masculine, uber mensch of the group. But Alan Scott is one of the most high-profile gay characters in DC Comics, although he was actually introduced before Hal Jordan. He predates the main Green Lantern because he was created in 1940. He was the original Green Lantern, a member of Justice Society of America, before he sort of disappeared into the ethos as many Golden Age heroes are wont to do, and was reintroduced in the 2000s as a lantern from Parallel Earth, and then more recently reconceived as a gay character.
So what do you think about Jeremy Irvine, HT? Are you familiar with his stuff? I know he starred in Warhorse. That was like his big break. I don't know if I've seen much from him after that.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in anything but Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again.
Okay.
And he played the young Pierce Brosnan, and he was fine. I mean, Lily James was really the draw of Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. So any of the men dancing around her were just kind of
superfluous.
Superfluous. They're exchangeable. You know, I didn't really care for his character, but also he at least was a better singer than Pierce Brosnan.
Chris, I'm looking at Jeremy Irvine's filmography right now, and he was in The Woman in Black 2, Angel of Death. Did you see that movie? Do you remember his performance from that?
I did see that movie, but I don't remember anything. I remember it not very good, but I am, you know me, I'm Team Warhorse over here. So
yeah,
Warhorse is a great movie. I just want to get that out on the record. You can quote me on that. Warhorse, great movie.
So, are you excited about this this Green Lantern show, Chris? I feel like we've talked about this before, but just to maybe to refresh the listeners.
I don't know. I never really got into Green Lantern, so I don't have any really opinion on this. I guess I'll wait for like a trailer, but I have nothing like invested in this. Like, I guess it could be good. I don't know. I never really got into Green Lantern. You know, it was never one of those things when I was younger or whatever.
All right, I think that's going to be all we have for today. So that'll bring us to the end of today's episode of Slash Film Daily. The show is published every weekday, bringing you the most exciting news from the world of movies and TV, as well as deeper dives into the great features you can find on the site. You can find more about all the stories that we mentioned on today's show at slashfilm.com and linked inside the show notes of this episode. You can subscribe to this show on Apple, Google, Overcast, Spotify, all of the popular podcast apps, and send your feedback, questions, comments, concerns, and mailbag topics to us at peter@slashfilm.com. Make sure to leave your name and general geographic location in case we mention your email on the air. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Tell your friends, spread the word. Thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you tomorrow.